Thanks very much, Chris. Another image or message that we've heard today that really hits hard. So has anybody got any questions for Chris while he's on stage? We've got a mic coming.
Hi Chris, Valerie O'Keefe from Flinders Uni. I just wondered obviously a media campaign is awareness raising and it's, looks like it's had some change in behaviour, but can you maybe tell us what sort of training that the Ambos get on diffusing these sorts of incidents and I guess identifying the escalation cues and things like that?
Absolutely. So everybody who works in an operational environment has what's called operational safety training as part of their induction into the organisation. So before they even get out onto the road to actually go and start playing with the people, they're taken through a whole series of training exercises which talks about exactly as the same, de-escalation techniques, talking about circumstances where you might see people react, the sort of environments that we work in. It's very much because everybody comes in, they want to come in and save the world, well-intentioned but quite green in a literal sense, but very keen still to do it, but not necessarily fully aware of what happens in the real world around them. So we also make sure that they're well educated in terms of that this is an issue. So there's operational safety training which talks about the de-escalation techniques. It shows them, we actually teach them some basic techniques to safely remove themselves from circumstances when they're grabbed or things like that. And so there's a whole big workbook and a number of things they have to go through. They're also given mentors when they first come out, who are clinical instructors who, as soon as they go out on the road, they're not just sent out with two new green people to look after themselves. They're actually given a specific mentor to step them through that, who've obviously got that experience, and it's just helping them understand the street smart. Because there's book smart, and these young Ambos that are coming out, from ATARs of 98 and things are very smart from a book, but they've got to learn the street part of the job as well. So it's a very important part of what we do.
Hi, I was just wondering, given that you have such a high-stress job, looking at mental health in the workplace, what does your organisation do to support you in that area?
Yeah, I had a big red afro when I started. The stress has slowly pulled it all out. So no, the reality of Daylight is we have a very, very well-entrenched staff wellness and assistance, number of staff wellness and assistance programs. So we have our peer support programs. So last year our peer support officers, who are colleagues, who are merit selected and trained, responded to about 3,000 proactive responses to teammates who'd been into challenging, difficult cases. We've all got a very well-entrenched employee assistance program with our mental health professionals, and still to this day around about 94% of the people that engage with our employee assistance program are self-referred. So that's pretty against the norm in that regard. So it's very well entrenched. Both have been in place for about 25 years in our organisation. We also have a staff fitness program called SASFit. So we actually encourage people to be physically fit to undertake the duties that they do. So we have 2 exercise physiologists employed full-time, actually as part of my team, who actually help people, provide some assistance, life coaching in terms of nutrition and exercise programs, will help write exercise prescriptions for people so that they can do that. We actually support that financially, so they can reclaim back from us once they've done an assessment and set up some goals. They can purchase certified goods that meet the criteria, and we'll rebate up to $299 a year for them to do that. So there's that physical thing as well, to try and say it's the holistic approach to looking after our people. But we're still working at the minute on an overarching organisational wellness strategy. That's a body of work that I'm hoping to have completed by the end of the year. So yeah, we don't want to do things in isolation and say, here, we've got a great campaign, but then there's nothing to back it up. So certainly we try very hard to make sure that we've got a bit of a complete package in that space.
Before your campaign, were there any places that you would not go without multiple units or assistance from other services?
Yeah, so we have a client management unit, and we do have some addresses in our system that are flagged, and there are levels. So if there's been an incident of a previous assault against a paramedic at certain addresses, they may be flagged in our system, which is considered a high-risk address. So they may be then, if a crew's going to that, it'll pop up a warning on the mobile data terminal in the fleet before they get there saying, just be aware there's a HRA1 or a HRA3. and the crews can go in and find a bit more information about what happened in the past, and a decision will then be made through a dynamic risk assessment that we give them a level of training in to make a decision. Do we commit into this or do we not? And at the end of the day, we would rather have people wait up the street and wait until SAPOL or somebody gets there to support them before we allow them just to go running in. So again, if they do happen to get caught in a situation, we then will add the flag afterwards if it hasn't already got a flagged address. And so we have a pretty solid system to make sure, ideally, we're not sending anybody to something that could be dangerous.
Sounds like you've got a pretty robust system now. I would wonder if in the past, perhaps incidences you had on your aggression scale there of self-harm, which can obviously be very traumatic for the workers.
Sure.
You know, have they not been taken as seriously in the past, or how do you now get support workers, I guess, after they've had those kind of experiences?
Yeah, so as I say, we have a very robust employee assistance program and peer support program. So X number of types of cases, so whether they be instances of violence and aggression, we have something flagged in our system that our psychologists will be the people that will straight away ring our staff members after this sort of thing occurs to make sure that they're okay. So that one won't be picked up by a normal peer support officer who's just a colleague. They'll be picked up by a highest level to make sure. So that's one of the things we have in place. But even if it's just a incident such as a significant accident, child death, suicides, whatever else, the plethora of things that people go to, SIDS cases, etc., that will automatically generate a response from our emergency operations centre. It will flag that these people on this crew have been to this job. They then activate a page that goes out to colleagues who are peer support officers in that space. So within 24 hours, somebody from our peer support program or one of our mental health professionals will have contacted those crews. So they actually ring them up and say, hey, heard you went to a bit of a shitty job, are you okay? Do you want to have a chat about it? So there are a number of things that are automated that will respond in that way. Or we also have a pretty good solid understanding culturally that people can self-generate into the program. So if they even know themselves that they've just gone to a very innocuous job, but they're just not feeling right about it because there may be some level of familiarity or something that they can relate to, relatability to a family member similar, they may make the decision to either contact a peer support officer themselves or in fact self-refer into our employee assistance program.
Hi, I've had some experience with bus drivers that have been assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
SAPOL, fantastic, they arrest the offender. It goes to the courts and then I guess we felt quite disappointed and let down by that outcome. What's been your experiences?
So, yeah. No lawyers in the room by any chance, is there? It's not been recorded. No, look, I think the reality of daylight is it's a challenge in the court system, there's no doubt about it. But something like this certainly raised the profile in the public awareness area. So it made a big difference once we got to court. We started making sure that, a couple of managers would be at least with the staff member, but that's kind of spread a little bit to other colleagues who are on days off. We'll actually front up to support the person in court. So seeing 10 Ambos sitting in the back of a court, judges looking down over their glasses, it's a little bit confronting almost for the judge to see that. Not that they're that soft that would make that big a difference, but they're certainly aware of the fact that they've got collegiate support, and so it probably reflects a little bit. So it's an aggravated offence to assault an Ambo or other emergency services workers. So we've actually had somebody sentenced to 12 months jail. Mind you, that was for stabbing an Ambo, but 12 months jail for that. So certainly it's different. There's a bit more precedent now being established in the courts.
Hi Chris, how do you resource your peer supports? I'm assuming that they're working officers, so is there time allocation?
Yeah. So our peer support program, all the people who join the program are volunteers, as in with the career staff or as in paid staff or volunteer ambulance officers. They elect to come into the program as volunteers. So every 2 years or so we do another recruitment process. We're about to actually run a course Monday and Tuesday next week for another 17 peer support officers. So it's people from within the organisation who put their hand up to do it. We have a couple of days, 3 training days per year where we sort of try to get the group together, spend some time. We also make sure that all our psychologists come and support the people, and we do a bit of a welfare check. We need to check the checkers. because we have the risk of the vicarious trauma also. So every year, all of our peer support officers get a welfare check from one of our mental health professionals to make sure that they're travelling okay. So mostly people volunteer their time, and then if we have to take them off shift to attend some of the training sessions, then that's obviously in paid time. Some of the members can elect to claim overtime if they're career staff, but the vast majority don't, because they say, well, I didn't sign up to this. I signed up to this to support my colleagues, not to make it, the bank of SAS.
I understand the training and the support, and it's good to hear that you're doing the support as well. I'm just thinking at an operational level, if they're on shift and they get a call from someone, how does the organisation resource that?
So what we try to do is every area has a response cluster. So for example, I'm a peer support officer. If I am on shift and I'm busy in a job, well, obviously I can't respond to go and ring somebody else up, or it may not be appropriate to ring that person because of the fact that they may still be actively on the job. If you go to a murder or something, when you have your boot prints taken and all the other bits and pieces, you can be on that scene for 6, 7, 8 hours. So sometimes it's not convenient to ring them in that time frame. So we talk to the people who put the page through to try and track exactly where they're up to at that particular time. If I'm on shift, there'll be somebody else who's in my cluster, my response cluster, who can actually pick that up who might not be on shift. So we have 3 or 4 peer support officers in each cluster, so it's only really one of them that needs to respond to each of the individual cases. Taking up too much time here, I think.
No, that's great. Got questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, please join me in thanking Chris again for his time today.